It had to be close to 3 in the morning, the kind of hour when even the city forgets to breathe. I was standing in the living room barefoot, one hand resting on the cold windowsill, the other still clutching the edge of the curtain. The air was thick with the stillness only an urban night could offer. No sirens, no music from neighboring balconies, not even the distant hum of the boulevard below. Just silence. And then, the scratching started. Not above me. Not at the door. But from the left. The balcony. 9th floor. My stomach twisted as if something ancient and instinctual inside me had been stirred. I turned my head slowly, heart thudding like something trapped in a ribcage made of iron, and stared into the darkness. At first, it was just black glass. But then I saw it. A face. Pressed against the sliding door from inside the balcony. Pale. Expressionless. Not frightened, not angry, just there. I did not scream. I think my body refused to obey, locked between logic and terror. There was no way in hell someone could be standing outside on that narrow slab of concrete 9 floors above the ground. Not unless they'd climbed the building like some cursed spider. Not unless they'd always been there. That balcony had been locked for 2 years. Ever since the accident. Or the incident. Whatever people wanted to call it. I hadn't touched the door. Hadn't even looked at it, really. Like a shadow in a painting you'd rather ignore. And yet, now it felt like it had been watching me this whole time. The room smelled stale, like books left out in a storm. I felt the goosebumps on my arms rise like warning signals. I stepped back, almost tripping over the edge of the coffee table, and stared harder. The face was still there. Still pressed against the glass, unmoving. Not breathing. Just a white oval with hollow eyes. The glass was slightly fogged. From the inside. That was what broke me. My legs moved before I could think, rushing into the hallway, slamming the bedroom door behind me. I didn't sleep. I didn't turn the lights off. I just sat, wide-eyed and silent, until the morning sun crawled across the windows like a thing with too many legs. I told myself I imagined it. Maybe I had. A trick of light. My brain playing games after too many nights of insomnia and too much online horror. But something changed that night. The atmosphere in the apartment thickened, like the air itself had become aware. Shadows seemed to linger a second too long. The hallway felt colder. Doors creaked where they hadn't before. I checked the balcony door the next morning, locked. Same rusted keyhole, same layer of dust on the handle. But there was a single, faint handprint on the glass, as if something had leaned in just slightly. Just enough to say I see you too. I didn't open the windows for weeks after that. The second time I heard it was a Thursday. Raining. Thunder cracked the sky like it was trying to peel the city open. I was lying on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, phone dead somewhere under the cushions, the TV flickering with an old horror movie I wasn't watching. The scratching came again. Softer this time. Not a frantic clawing. Just a polite presence. Like it was waiting for me to acknowledge it. I turned my head slowly. This time, I knew better. I didn't rush. Didn't jump. I just looked. There was no face now. No figure. But the door to the balcony, still shut, still locked, was slightly ajar. Just half an inch. Just enough to let the air in. Just enough to let something out. I stood, slowly, barefoot again, and stepped closer. The wind had a strange scent. Not fresh rain. Not wet concrete. But something sweet and rotting. Like overripe fruit or long-dead flowers. I reached out to close the door. My fingers trembled as I touched the metal. It was warm. Like someone had just let go of it. For the rest of the night, I sat in the hallway again. Same spot. Same blanket. No TV. Just the sound of the storm and the occasional thud from somewhere above. Or below. I couldn't tell anymore. My sense of distance had begun to dissolve. That night, I dreamed of standing on the edge of the balcony, naked and numb, staring down at the wet city while something behind me whispered my name. Except I don't remember telling it my name. I tried talking to friends. But how do you explain that your apartment might be haunted by something that lives on your balcony and knows when you're awake? That every time you pass the glass door, you feel watched from a place you can't quite see? They'd laugh. Or worse, suggest therapy. And maybe they'd be right. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. That weekend, I tried something different. I set up my phone on a tripod facing the balcony overnight. No lights, no tricks. Just raw footage. In the morning, I opened the app, expecting static or darkness. But at 3:14 a.m., for exactly 17 seconds, the door opened wider. Nothing walked in. But the camera tilted slightly. Just a few degrees. As if it was being considered. And then, nothing. I watched that clip 30 times. The way the curtains barely moved. The faintest glimpse of a reflection that wasn't mine. And in the audio, almost hidden under the static, something like a breath. I started avoiding the living room altogether. Slept in the kitchen a few nights. Left lights on. Burned sage. Listened to white noise. But it didn't help. It just waited. Whatever it was. Until tonight. Until just now. I opened the window. First time in a month. Just a crack to let some air in. That same sweet rotten scent drifted through immediately. And then, not a sound this time, but a presence. To the left. I turned. The balcony glass was completely fogged, like someone had been breathing against it for hours. And this time, the face wasn't outside. It was inside. Inches from mine. It smiled. The scream never came. It got caught somewhere in my throat, like a dream you can't wake up from. I stumbled back, hitting the radiator, my breath ragged. The lights flickered, and when they came back on, nothing. The glass was clean. The door shut. I could see my reflection, pale and trembling. But behind it something darker lingered. A shape with no edges. A shadow that didn't belong. I ran. Out of the apartment. Down 9 flights of stairs because the elevator moaned like it was breathing. Out into the street, barefoot and shaking, ignoring the eyes of strangers. I haven't been back. I don't plan to. The landlord won't return my calls. I check the building on Google Maps sometimes, just to see it still exists. And every time I zoom in, the balcony is dark. But the glass always has that same faint smudge. Like someone's face. Waiting. You might not believe me. You might think it's all some nightmare. Some twisted story for a late night. But answer me this. Why is your window open right now? And what's that scratching sound? It's strange how your heart remembers fear even before your mind catches up. I was standing in the hallway, barefoot on cold tile, the phone still clutched in my hand, the line dead and silent. The screen showed the last call, Mom, 3:12 a.m. The room around me looked the same, dim and familiar, but something had cracked open, just slightly, like a whisper behind drywall or a faint breath on the back of my neck. The call had ended only seconds ago, but its echo was heavier than the silence that followed. I wasn't supposed to be scared of my mother's voice, yet my knees were trembling, and the air smelled faintly of burnt plastic and something metallic, like old pennies or blood. Maybe both. Outside, the wind pressed against the windows, as if trying to listen in. My mind circled the words she'd said, warped, disjointed, dragged through static like they'd been fished out of some cursed well of bad reception. Come get me, please, the car died. I'm by mile marker 73. But I tucked her in just before midnight. I'd even double-checked the locks, glanced out at the driveway, saw her car exactly where I'd parked it yesterday, front left tire tilted, dented fender, that little magnet with the faded American flag still clinging to the bumper. There was no way she was on the highway. And yet, When I didn't answer, that voice, that awful parody of hers, had sighed into the receiver, as though disappointed. Then it whispered, almost too low to hear, but I heard it. "Well then, we'll come to you. On foot." My body moved before I made the decision. I locked the front door, slid the deadbolt across, then another. I even turned off the porch light, as if darkness might protect me. But nothing felt safe. Not anymore. I tried to convince myself it was a dream, some half-awake hallucination. But I touched the phone, heard the click of the call connecting, smelled that strange, electric odor. Every instinct screamed that something had started, and it wasn't over. It was coming. They were coming. Whoever, whatever, had used her voice. The kind of horror that doesn't scream or charge, but just walks. Slowly. Because it knows you'll be too scared to run before it reaches you. Somewhere far off, a dog barked. Then another. And then, silence again. Too much of it. And I swear, I heard footsteps. Not inside. Not yet. But closer than they should have been. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat on the couch in the dark with every light off, the phone still in my lap, my eyes fixed on the window facing the front yard. My mother never came downstairs. Her room stayed silent. I didn't dare go up to check. Something about crossing the staircase felt final. Like I'd see something I couldn't unsee. By 4:30, I was still staring at the driveway. No movement. No one. Just shadow and frost creeping along the pavement. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it all. Maybe stress, maybe sleepwalking. But then the phone buzzed again. Block number. One ring. Then silence. I let it go. Waited. Then it buzzed again. This time I picked up and said nothing. Neither did the caller. But I heard something. A dragging sound, like footsteps scraping on gravel. Then a faint click. And then, just before the line cut, a whisper, familiar yet ruined, like someone mimicking my mom's voice through a cracked speaker. "I see your house." I stood, the blood draining from my legs, and stepped back from the window. I didn't want to look, not really. But some awful part of me needed to. Outside, near the edge of the porch, there was movement. Slow. Like a figure shifting just out of the arc of the streetlight. Not walking. Rocking. Like it hadn't walked in years and couldn't quite remember how. I ran upstairs. Her room was cold. Too cold. The covers were pulled tight, but she wasn't in the bed. The mattress held her shape, like she'd just been there, maybe minutes ago. The window was cracked. Just a sliver. And next to the bed, the scent again, that horrible metallic burnt odor, stronger now. I didn't call the cops. I didn't call anyone. What could I even say? That I got a ghost call? That I was being stalked by some cursed imitation of my mother? That she was gone from her bed without a trace? I just waited. By morning, there was nothing outside. The snow hadn't fallen, but the grass looked, swept, like something had brushed over it. Like tracks. Barefoot. I checked the phone records. The call at 3:12 wasn't there. But the whisper still echoed, deep in the back of my mind, "We'll come to you, on foot." That night I didn't stay in the house. I drove out toward the highway. Something had shifted in me, fear or madness, maybe both. I needed proof. Or answers. Or an end. Mile marker 73 was an hour away. I drove in silence, windows up, radio off, hands clenched so hard on the wheel they ached. I passed 72. Then 73. And saw the shoulder. There was nothing. No car. No sign anyone had ever been there. But I pulled over anyway. I don't know why. Some part of me just knew I had to. The second I stepped out, my ears popped. Like pressure dropping before a storm. The world felt thin here. Not quiet, not really. There was a hum, like distant power lines, but deeper, more organic. The air smelled like rain and static. I looked around, flashlight in hand, but it didn't matter. I felt watched. Then I saw her. Not far, maybe 30 feet away, near the tree line. She was standing still. Not waving. Not calling. Just staring. I should have run. Every muscle begged me to. But I walked forward. A few steps. Then stopped. My brain screamed it wasn't her. Her clothes looked right, but the way she stood was wrong. Too stiff. Her head tilted too far. In her mouth, it wasn't smiling. It was just open. Then I blinked, and she was gone. I don't remember getting back into the car. But I remember the passenger door. It was unlocked. And smelled like copper and old wires. I drove home in silence, trying not to cry, trying not to think. But every so often I looked at the rearview mirror, and once, just once, I saw a shape in the back seat. Just for a second. A blur. A grin. When I got back, her car was still in the driveway. I opened the trunk. I don't know why. It was empty. But the inside was wet. Like dew, or sweat. Or breath. I never told anyone. People would think I cracked. Maybe I did. But it didn't end there. Some nights, usually around 3, the phone rings. No number. Just static. Sometimes a whisper. Once, it said, "Almost there." The other night, I found footprints on the porch. Bare. Leading to the door. Then away. They never knock. Not yet. But sometimes, in the hallway mirror, I see something behind me. Not always. Just in the corner of my eye. A shadow, too tall to be hers, but with her shape. I keep every light on now. I never answer the phone. I don't drive past mile marker 73. And I never open the door after dark. Because I don't think they need the phone anymore. They found the house. I didn't tell anyone what I heard the first night. Maybe I should have. But it's one of those things, when something truly horrific starts happening, your brain does backflips trying to explain it away with anything that makes sense. That night, lying in that old farmhouse bedroom, I kept hearing it, a knock. Not a creak, not a groan of wood under weight, not wind. No. A deliberate, rhythmic knock. Once. Twice. Pause. Then again. And it didn't come from the walls or the window, it came from under the goddamn floorboards. Right beneath my bed. The house was a century old, maybe older. I bought it cheap after the last owner, some elderly guy named Morris, disappeared without a trace. Sheriff called it an accident. Wandered into the forest. Happens. The real estate lady laughed nervously and said, "People get weird out here." I wasn't superstitious, and the price was right, so I signed the papers without blinking. First thing I wanted to fix was the floor in the bedroom. Warped boards, soft spots, uneven nails. It bothered me. I didn't even unpack, just started ripping out planks the first evening. That's when I heard it. The knock. At first, I thought it was a raccoon trapped under the house or maybe some pipe expanding from temperature. But it wasn't random. It was steady. A sharp tap, like a knuckle. Once. Twice. Then nothing. Then again. It came when I paused to breathe, when I leaned over to inspect the gap. I froze, my palms flat on the wood, and I swear to God, I felt a slight vibration travel up through my fingertips. I laughed nervously and backed away. Maybe it was just the house settling. Old houses have a way of talking. Still, I didn't finish the job. I shoved the furniture back, left the boards half-pried, and decided to record the room overnight. Just in case. I used an old digital recorder from my college journalism days, set it near the exposed floor gap, and went to sleep in the living room, telling myself it was just for comfort. that I wasn't scared. But I was. My dreams were shallow and full of pressure, like something heavy crouched over me, breathing into my neck. In the morning, I poured myself stale coffee and played back the audio. At first, just white noise and soft shifting. Then my breath, slow, rhythmic, the way you sound when you finally drifted off. But then, something else. Another breath. Not mine. A heavier, almost wet inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Long, patient breaths, timed between my own, like it was waiting. My skin went cold. My hand froze halfway to the stop button. Then, at minute 47, it came again. Knock, knock, pause, knock. And underneath it all, just barely audible, the faint scrape of nails. I should have left then. But instead, I listened again. And again. The following days, I tried to be rational. I called a pest control guy who stomped around under the house, found nothing but damp earth and a few mouse droppings. No raccoons, no possums. No pipes either. The house didn't even have central heating, just a fireplace in the living room and a rusted wood stove in the kitchen. I blamed the wind. I blamed the old boards. I blamed my stress. The way the walls breathed in the silence made me feel like I was being watched even in the shower. But the knocking didn't stop. It came every night, around the same time, between midnight and 1. Always beneath the bed, always in the same slow rhythm. I stopped sleeping in the bedroom completely, avoided even walking past the doorway after dark. I started sleeping with the TV on, but the moment the volume dipped during quiet scenes, I could hear it again. The same cadence. Once. Twice. Pause. Then again. One night, I got drunk enough to crawl back into the room with a flashlight. I pried open a wider section of the floorboards, revealing damp soil beneath. I dug with my bare hands until I hit something hard, a flat stone slab, about 3 feet wide, etched with worn grooves I couldn't quite decipher. I remember my hands trembling. I didn't lift it. I just replaced the boards and went back downstairs. That night, there was no knocking. Just humming. Faint, tuneless, low-pitched humming. The next morning, there were long scratches on the inside of my bedroom door. From the inside. I called the sheriff. Told him I thought someone might be living under the house. He came out, checked the crawl space, shook his head. "You're not the first to say something weird's happening out here," he muttered. "Old Morris used to call him once a month saying he heard voices in the walls. Even tried to have a priest come by." He chuckled, but his eyes weren't smiling. That night, I tried sleeping in the truck with the recorder inside the house. I parked by the edge of the woods, barely able to see the upstairs window glowing faintly in the dark. I heard nothing but crickets and the occasional snap of twigs behind me. In the morning, I played the tape again. Same pattern. Breath. Knock. Pause. Then something new, a voice. Hoarse. Dry. "I see you." I moved out the next day. I wish the story ended there. I wish I could tell you I sold the house and never looked back. But something about that place, something about the knock, never let go. I started seeing it in my dreams. The floorboards. The sound. The breath. Sometimes I'd wake up gasping, sure someone was beneath me, pressing their mouth to the slats, whispering through the wood. I even caught myself knocking back once. I don't remember doing it, but I woke up with bruises on my knuckles and dirt under my nails. 2 weeks after I left, I drove back. The house was supposed to be vacant, but when I got there, the front door was open. Just swinging on its hinge. No furniture, no lights, no signs of squatters. I walked to the bedroom. The floor was torn open, boards flung aside like ribs. And there was the slab again, but this time, it was cracked down the center, black soil crumbling out like ash. I knelt beside it, staring, not daring to touch. Then I heard it, soft, but clear. Knock. Knock. Pause. Knock. I didn't run. I don't know why. Something moved beneath the soil. A finger. Pale, rotted, curling upward. Reaching. But not toward me. Toward something else. I felt it behind me, warm breath against my ear. Then the sound, not a word, not even a whisper. Just that slow, horrible breath, mimicking mine. I turned around. Nothing. But I felt it. The presence. The curse. The nightmare that never left. That was the last time I was in that room, but sometimes, when I'm lying in bed at night, in a different house, different state, I still hear it, from deep beneath the mattress. Knock. Knock. Pause. Knock. And I hold my breath. Because sometimes, it answers back.